Hey everyone, I'm Mind, and this is set number 77005, Knuckles vs. Dr. Eggman Egg Crusher Mech from the LEGO Sonic the Hedgehog theme. This set contains 350 pieces, 2 minifigures, and will retail for $44.99 USD when it officially releases on August 1st, 2025. This set was gifted to me early for review by the LEGO Group through the LEGO Ambassador Network, but of course all opinions expressed in this video are entirely my own. I will be doing early reviews of both of the Summer 2025 LEGO Sonic the Hedgehog set, so if you enjoy these kind of videos and you want to see more, make sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you're new. Liking and subscribing does a ton to help support me and the channel, and it also helps YouTube to show you my videos more often. So thank you all very much for the support, and now let's get into the review. So here is the Egg Crusher Mech, which is of course a mech for Dr. Eggman. Of the two sets this wave, this is definitely the one I was the most excited for, just because I thought it looked really unique. The Eggman vehicles all have a really cool aesthetic to them. I like the combination of the black and red that they normally use, and they often have super cartoony proportions, which makes sense for a video game, but is always very interesting to see translated into an actual toy. And this mech right here is no exception, and I love it for that. So let's move up a little bit closer and take a look at everything that it has going on. Starting at the feet, they're somewhat tall compared to other LEGO mechs of this size, but I think that works pretty well for Eggman, especially with the joint right above it. Because the feet themselves are only slightly shorter than the leg, it makes the bend of the foot almost look like a bend at the knee, so it almost creates the illusion of more motion in the build than there actually is. There's some nice splashes of color here too, right? We have the transparent blue tiles on the side, this yellow at the front with the black stripes, and a little bit of blue on the inside, but all these colors feel like they fit with Eggman just fine. There's nothing that feels ugly or out of place. And the shaping on the feet feels unique, very solid. I'm pretty happy with these. Now the actual legs of the mech are super thin, they're made up of only a few Technic pieces, as well as the Star Wars astromech droid head to be like a knee guard at the front. But again, I think this is great because it really gives this mech those cartoony proportions. The torso is significantly bulkier than the legs, just like how Eggman himself looks, so it's neat that they were able to capture that here on the mech, and not really compromise on posability or stability. Which, speaking of posability, you have a pretty wide range of motion forward and back on the feet, as well as a little bit side to side, though not a ton. And then the legs also connect with a full-size ball joint, and there's a huge range of motion there. You can pose those basically however you want. The torso of the mech curves out as you get to the chest, giving it a very unique silhouette. And we've got some pretty creative parts usage here. These are two small car hood pieces, but they're both facing opposite directions to create the shape of his chest. And then there's some trans-clear lights in the center of everything, and it sort of creates the appearance of Eggman's outfit. At the top, we've got this large rounded windshield, which is a very fun part to get. I feel like we don't get that nearly enough these days, but again, helps this build to stand out. And of course, you can hinge that open to access the minifigure inside, and that's where Dr. Eggman himself stands. And there's nothing too crazy going on in there. There is some handlebars for him to grab onto and control the mech if you want to, but I think it's actually quite impressive how deep the cockpit goes, because Eggman's an incredibly tall minifigure, and he can pilot this while standing up. He does not have to sit down. For reference on the outside, right here is about how deep he goes in the neck, and he slots in there pretty perfectly. He can't actually really hold on to those handlebars, but they're there so you can imagine it. You can sort of rotate them to the side to make them closer to his hands, but even still, you're not really able to get him to actually grab on. And then of course, once he's in there, you can close the cockpit back up around him, and that's how he looks piloting the mech, just barely peeking out of the top. Around the back, we have what I assume is the battery powering the mech, because we have this translate blue dome piece right here, and then a few translate blue cones. And then plugged into all this, there's two of the Chaos Emeralds. We have a transparent blue one and a transparent red one. Coming to the arms, there's some very exposed joints, but I feel like they fit this mech. It gives it a very robotic feel, and again, sort of matches that thinness that we saw on the legs. It makes the transition into this bulkier part of the arm feel very dramatic. These are rigid Technic joints, so you can move them up and down as well as spin them all the way around. And then we have a few more thin Technic pieces that connect to a claw at the end. The opposite arm is mostly identical, except it's a 6-stud stud shooter instead. If for some reason you've never seen these before, you just spin them around and all 6 studs can shoot out. I'm not going to shoot them all out because they do make a huge mess, but if that's a play feature you like, it is right there. My take's always been I think they're a ton of fun, especially for kids, but as an older collector, I never want to shoot them because they are not worth the trouble. This arm though, the claw, this is amazing, easily my favorite part of this set. I just absolutely love how this was done. So first up, it's able to spin, and you can just hit it like this and it spins around, and I think that makes the mech feel very animated. But because these claw pieces are so big, there's like a little bit of give to them if you want to push down on them, so you can have the claw close up and grab onto something. Of course, when you let go, the claw's not going to stay in that position, but it makes it a little more fun to grab and just mess around with. Especially from a play perspective, right? You can have it grab onto a minifigure like that. Without squeezing down, it is a little too big for a minifigure, so they will just fall out. But if you want to just hold them in place like this, that's an option you have. However, what I've been having fun with is these rock pieces that come in this set. These tie in with the side build, which we'll take a look at in a moment, but essentially it's a catapult that shoots these rocks, and that give on the claws works in both directions. So if you want, you can sort of force the rock in here, and that way the mech can hold on to it. So if you're having Knuckles fight Eggman with a little catapult side build, Eggman can actually catch the rock in midair, and then either throw it back at him or use it as a weapon or whatever. I think that's really great for play. There is no elbows or anything on the arms, which definitely limits them a lot more, but I don't think it's the end of the world. On a mech like this, it doesn't feel as bad as some other mechs, especially because both of these arms are weapons. There's no just like regular hand. From posing this in my own time, I've not felt like it's really missing any of the poses that it needs. While it's obviously not the most posable mech we've ever gotten, for what this mech's supposed to be, I think it's pretty good. Balance is surprisingly great despite the very thin legs. I think because the torso's so hollow, that also helps. But yeah, it's pretty easy to get into like a walking pose like this, or maybe something a little more dramatic like this. The legs here are amazing. The arms are definitely the most limited thing when it comes to posing, but for a smaller mech set like this, I still think it's pretty solid. But anyway, I think that's about all I have to show you for the actual Egg Crusher mech. I'll talk about it a little bit more at the end of this video. For now, let's take a look at the side builds in the set, then the minifigures, and then I'll give you my overall thoughts on everything at the end. The first side build in the set is this little Flier for Knuckles, and I mean, it's cute for a little side build. You got some trans blue to hold it up in the air, and some trans blue as a thruster out the back, a little place for him to actually sit, and then the front of the Flier is designed to look like a knuckle because it's Knuckles, so it matches his gloves. It's even got the spikes at the top. This is cute. It gives you something a little bit more to play with, but it's not like the most spectacular build of all time or anything. Most interesting part is definitely this at the front. I like that you have something at all for the good guys, though. And then here's the other side build, which I mentioned before, the rock catapult. This is a very classic idea for a LEGO side build. There's tons of sets that I had as a kid that had very similar things. But essentially, you load up a rock that's in this set, and you push down this, and it'll shoot it out. So if you want to fight back against the Eggman mech, you can try launching rocks at it. And that did not go far enough. That went too far. Too far again, but closer. Okay, that one hit, just not hard enough. Okay, that one hit again. You guys get the idea. You do get two of the rocks in the set. They're like the standard LEGO rock pieces in dark tan, and a very simple build in the middle to keep them together. And the catapult itself is nothing too complex in terms of parts, though you do get two of these fern pieces, which are a nice bonus. Don't really think I have much else to say on that, though. Oh, one more build I almost forgot to mention, rings. You get 3 rings in this set. Nice to get, obviously. We've had them in quite a few Sonic sets before. But hey, they do add a little something more to this one. Now, here are the 2 minifigures in the set. We, of course, have Knuckles and Dr. Eggman. And unfortunately, neither of these 2 are new in any way. They're both figures that we've gotten before in the LEGO Sonic the Hedgehog theme. Doesn't mean they're bad figures per se, but I think it's a little bit lame that this entire summer wave of Sonic sets has 0 new minifigures, because that's the first time that's happened. Obviously, entirely new characters would be great, but at a bare minimum, I would have really liked some new expressions for the existing characters, because that's something they've done a few times before. I'm pretty sure every single one of the good guy characters except for Amy does now have more than one expression. And that's the case for Knuckles as well. This is the second expression he got, but I don't know, I wouldn't be against a third. This is the same variant that came in the Knuckles and the Master Emerald set, which was $35. So if you're a huge Knuckles fan, you probably already have that one, or if you don't, you could just get that set instead. So while I'm happy to see Knuckles at all again, because this is only the 3rd set that he's ever come in, I don't know, something new would have been nice. So that way it gives current collectors a little bit more to get in this set, but for newer collectors it would still be a good Knuckles figure. However, since this figure isn't new, it's not as exciting for existing collectors, but he is still a pretty cool one. The most interesting part about the minifigure is definitely the actual knuckle pieces, like the gloves on his hands. That's an exclusive part only to him, and it's come in all 3 of his sets. And they're just gloves that go over standard minifigure hands, so he holds onto them like that, and of course you're able to remove them if you want, though he looks a little bit uncanny without the knuckle gloves on. Knuckles does have dual-molded legs as well in red and bright orange, which definitely makes the figure feel a lot more detailed. Though on the topic of detail, I feel like they could have added a little more detail to his shoes, because while there's a bit here, it's not as much as we've seen in some other figures, and his shoes are a little more detailed in the games, so a bit more would have been nice here. Torso, though, I think is absolutely perfect. It's just the white stripe, that's all he needs, and then he's got his little tail out the back. But by far, the best part about all the Sonic minifigures is the exclusive molded headpieces, and Knuckles is no exception. I think he looks fantastic. The shaping is perfect, the colors are perfect, I really like his purple eyes, and this is a great expression for him. It's just one that we've already gotten. This is like the angry expression, which I think fits Knuckles really well. So good minifigure all around, just not new. And then Robotnik is still the same one we've been getting since the first wave. However, unlike Knuckles, there's nothing else I think you could really do with him. Like, they pretty much got him perfectly first try with the full LEGO Sonic theme. If we're talking about the idea set, that's a whole other story. But this minifigure from the first wave of the full Sonic theme, this guy is great. So I've got no complaints about him coming in more sets. This is also, I believe, now the cheapest set that he's ever come in. So if you're a fan of Sonic, but you've been waiting on getting any of the sets, and you really want a Robotnik figure, this is a decent way to do it now. Which I think that's awesome to see. Making figures more accessible is always a good thing. And then yeah, his design is super funny. He has standard minifigure hands, but like the longer Hagrid arms. They connect on Technic pins to the body, which was an all-new piece for this minifigure. The piece itself is perfect. I love how they printed his outfit. His face looks very funny with a big bushy mustache, and he's got little coattails that hang down the back. And then to make him taller than everybody else, he uses the LEGO Avatar leg piece in black, which normally I'm not a fan of on minifigures just because I feel like it's a little bit awkward, but on Eggman specifically, it's perfect. I couldn't imagine doing him any other way. Hedgehog. So yeah, great inclusion here. Obviously, he makes sense to come in the set for his own mech, and I'm glad there's a slightly cheaper way to get him. Now, unfortunately, this is the only 2 minifigures in this set, which is a little unfortunate, because for $45, I wish we would have gotten a bit more than 2. Throw in a Sonic here, honestly. Sonic comes in lots of sets, so he's probably a little bit cheaper to produce just because they make so many of him, or preferably a slightly rarer character. But yeah, I think only having 2 minifigures, neither of them new, does definitely drag down the value of this set a little bit. So now, with that said, what are my overall thoughts on this set? I like the actual build of the set a lot. This is very unique for a LEGO mech. It captures Dr. Eggman's personality perfectly, and I think it's fun to play with too, the claw hand especially. That's awesome. Minifigures are both really good, I just wish there was more of them. And then we come to the price, which is 45 USD or 40 euro. The euro price is definitely a lot better. This summer, all American prices got increased due to factors outside of LEGO's control. But with that said, it does make this set a hard pill to swallow for 45. I think this would have been amazing for 30 or 35. 40, though, it leaves a little bit to be desired. I think throwing in one more minifigure really would have done a lot, even if it was just an existing Sonic or whatever. But yeah, only having 2 minifigures and not having any new minifigures, and even smaller things like not having any of the little animals that come in most of the Sonic sets, I think is odd. It just doesn't feel like there's as much here as some other Sonic sets have, which is really unfortunate because I want to recommend this set. So overall, I'd say this is a pretty solid set, especially if you're just getting into LEGO Sonic, if you don't mind paying a slightly higher price. But if you're on a bit more of a budget, and especially if you already have an existing LEGO Sonic collection, and you already have this Knuckles, or you have Eggman from another set, there's probably better options for you out there, including from the LEGO Sonic line. Because honestly, if I was a fan of Knuckles, I'd probably rather get either of the previous sets that he came in. They were both 35 and came with the same number of minifigures, and yeah, it was still a high price for what those builds were, but they felt closer to being a good value than this one does. So not the worst value set ever, and definitely a great build. But that price is certainly something you have to keep in mind if you guys want to get this one. But of course, those are just my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think of this set in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like on it, subscribe to my channel if you're new, and stay tuned because I'll have the other Summer 2025 LEGO Sonic review coming to my channel very soon. But as for this one, I think that's about all I have to say, so thanks for watching everybody, I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!